Okay, welcome back to the Okay Not Okay podcast. I am Dr. O'Kay, and today we do an attitude adjustment where we talk about a superstar who has recently changed their attitude, and then at the end we will decide whether that move was okay or not okay, which goes along with the name of the podcast, so that seems to make sense. Well, nonetheless, today it is The Miz, and we examine his attitude adjustment after having a few rough months, and with Karrion Kross pouring just a little bit of poison into his ears. So with that, let's get it started. And The Miz, what else can you say about him? But he's had an awesome WWE career as a 21-time champion, and none of those times were with the 24/7 championship. So those are all pretty good reigns. He is a 2-time WWE champion, an 8-time Intercontinental champion, a 2-time US champion, and a 9-time tag team champion to get to those 21 reigns, and he was the first ever 2-time Grand Slam champion when he won his second WWE Championship on February 21st, 2021, defeating Drew McIntyre with a little bit of help from Bobby Lashley and cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase that he basically bribed Judge JBL for to take it away from Otis and give it to him. But nonetheless, it worked out for him for 8 days until Lashley was able to pin him pretty easily to take the championship away from him. And then just a little bit over a year and a half later, Seth Rollins joined him as the only other man as a 2-time Grand Slam champion when he won the US title for a second time. But of course, The Miz is most well known for his extreme arrogance and smugness. He is very combative with anyone he comes across and most enjoys talking down to the WWE Universe. Nonetheless, he is highly intelligent and in fact kind of weaselly in his actions, using his slyness and cunning to defeat physically superior athletes. And obviously that's worked out quite well for him, winning those 21 championships. But after winning that second WWE championship, he had gone over 3 years without a title, but he couldn't help but feel badly for R-Truth in trying to get him through that really strange time where he thought he was in the Judgment Day, but never really was, even though I have to say he defeated JD McDonough in a match that was supposed to put the winner into the Judgment Day and have the loser be out of the Judgment Day. So I don't know why the rest of the Judgment Day did not honor that, because I think R-Truth was doing a really good job selling that merchandise and making the big bucks for the Judgment Day. But after R-Truth represented the Judgment Day on an episode of Miz TV, The Miz saw an opening and went for it with the Awesome Truth reforming and entering and winning a qualifying match for the 6-pack ladder match for the Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. And of course, they went on to win the Raw Tag Team Championships that night, which of course just a couple weeks later were renamed into the World Tag Team Championships. However, being a part of Awesome Truth was difficult for The Miz, as he had to always keep his eye on R-Truth so that Truth wouldn't just book them into title matches every single week against different opponents. And unfortunately for The Miz, on the June 24th episode of Raw, The Miz was filling in for Pat McAfee, who was unable to commentate that night. So that left Truth alone, and that wily Liv Morgan got into Truth's ear, and she was able to convince Truth to talk to Adam Pearce to book a title match that night between the Judgment Day and the Awesome Truth. And of course, during the match, Liv interfered in that too and caused Truth to get pinned, and the Awesome Truth lost their titles after a nice 79-day reign with 4 successful title defenses. But from there, just a couple weeks later on the July 8th episode, the Awesome Truth was not granted a rematch, but they took on the Judgment Day in a 6-man tag with Braun Strowman. But unfortunately, they lost that match too. So The Miz went away for a few weeks and he got to golf with the Kelseys. So you would think some of that Swiftie magic would rub off on The Miz. And I guess it did for a little while, because he then got to host SummerSlam and landed a 15-knuckle shuffle with R-Truth and Jelly Roll on A-Town Down Under. But just 2 nights later, back in the ring, A-Town Down Under got some redemption as Truth accidentally swung Waller's legs into The Miz, which shortly thereafter led to Truth getting pinned yet again. The next week, The Miz was shown being very sad backstage, so R-Truth booked a match with him against Braun, which he thought was against Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title, but it proved to be a match against Big Bronson Reed instead. So Bronson Reed destroyed Miz pretty easily, but fortunately for The Miz, Truth came out and prevented Reed from tsunamiing Miz over and over again, taking the bullets for him, with Truth getting injured after 6 tsunamis. The very next week, The Miz went to Adam Pearce and requested a rematch, this time in a no DQ match against Reed, to stick up for one of the few friends that Miz has in the WWE. Even though he said he didn't know if he wanted to take it, he knew he had to do it. Unfortunately for The Miz, he came up short yet again, but this time it was Strowman who came out to stop Reed from landing multiple tsunamis on The Miz. But even after those 2 matches, Pearce granted The Miz a spot in the #1 contender tournament for the Intercontinental title. But yet again, The Miz came up short, losing cleanly to Pete Dunne and saying that every time he tries to do the right thing, something goes wrong. And that has proved to be true there, including the loss of the tag titles. The Miz lost 6 straight matches from the end of June until the end of August. So after a week off, The Miz came back, but that's when Karrion Kross got into his ear for the first time, saying that The Miz was in a rut, to which Miz had to agree that he was indeed in a rut. So in that same episode, Strowman said that he had to take down Bronson Reed because The Miz was no match for him. So the very next week, The Miz confronted Strowman, and of course Strowman said he meant no offense, but said sometimes it takes one monster to defeat another monster. So again, here comes Karrion Kross the very next week telling Miz that monsters come in all shapes and sizes. And Miz says, yes, they do. He gets a match with Reed yet again, but Strowman interferes while Reed's walking to the ring, and the match never takes place, with The Miz yelling at Strowman while Reed is doing a suicide dive on him. And that finally led to this week, where The Miz came up to Strowman during another interview, asking him about what he was doing the prior week to stop the match that he wanted so badly, but he was interrupted by R-Truth. So we know the rest. From there, The Miz had their tag team match with AOP, and once he tagged in, he turned right around and kicked Truth in the face, effectively ending the Awesome Truth. So what can we take away from all of this? First and foremost, what Miz did to Truth was absolutely unnecessary. The last time Miz had seen Truth, it was Truth who took 6 tsunamis for him and was out for almost 2 whole months because of those injuries caused by the tsunamis. So Miz should have been thanking R-Truth. Instead, he looked very unhappy to see him, and of course turned his back on him with that big kick. But with those unintentional slights by Braun Strowman and those words of wisdom by Karrion Kross, it turned Miz's thoughts in another direction, where it looked like the WWE locker room was belittling his status as a superstar and as a former champion. So The Miz had no choice but to take matters into his own hands. So truth be told, The Miz didn't get to be a 2-time WWE champion and a 21-time champion by being nice to anybody. So Miz needed to find that edge that he had throughout all of those years of his long and illustrious career. So perhaps The Miz now wants to go back to doing things on his own and perhaps proving that he does not have tiny balls. So perhaps he will have to confront Braun Strowman head on to see if he can take down the real monster among men coming out of that last monster standing match. And even if he doesn't, he might just be going for another Intercontinental Championship match, as it seems like Jey Uso will be willing to hand out title opportunities to anyone that wants them. And of course, The Miz with 8 IC title reigns is just one away from tying Chris Jericho for the most championships in WWE history. And with just 75 more days of being an IC champion, he will re-surpass Gunther as the #1 longest combined reign in IC title history. So if The Miz wants to put his eyes truly on the prize, this is the attitude that he needs. So even though we don't like seeing anything bad happening to R-Truth, we have to say, for The Miz, this is the right move for him, and we will have to give this an okay. Well, there you have it. That is the story of The Miz and his attitude adjustment, and we think he just might be set up for some more success in the near future. But only time will tell if he can overcome the monster and win that IC championship yet again. I'm Dr. O'Kay, and this has been the OK Not OK podcast.